முதலில் மனசர நன்றி சொல்லணும். இது எப்படி சொல்லணும்னு எனக்கு தெரியாது. ஆனால் ஒரே ஒரு உண்மையான பொருள் சொல்ல முடியும். இந்த பரிசு, இந்த மரியாதை, இந்த கௌரவம் எனக்கு அல்ல, இதெல்லாம் தமிழுக்கு. தமிழுக்கு ஏன் பரிசு? தமிழ் என்றால் ஒரு மொழி மாத்திரமல்ல, அது ஒரு நாகரிகம். இந்த நகரத்துக்கும் பெரிய வரலாறு உண்டு. அந்த வரலாற்றின் ஒரு அம்சத்தை நீங்கள் நான் எழுதின புஸ்தகத்தில் பார்க்கலாம். இன்னும் எழுத வேண்டியது அவ்வளவு இருக்கிறது. இலக்கியத்தோடு நெருங்கிய தொடர்புள்ள இசை, நாடகம், கலாச்சாரம் என்பவற்றை பற்றி எவ்வளவு சொல்லலாம். இதெல்லாம் உங்கள் கையில் இருக்கிறது. நான் எப்படி தமிழுக்கு வந்தேன் என்பது உங்களுக்கு சொல்கிறேன். அது ஆங்கிலத்தில் சொல்கிறேன். Because I have this great honor of being here tonight among friends in this amazing community in Toronto, and because perhaps it might be a little unusual or surprising for you to hear how a person like me, I'm just a very simple person, certainly no great Perasidia, I'm afraid, how such a person might have come to Tamil, to study Tamil, to love Tamil, in a way to give a big part of my life to Tamil. I thought that story might be of some interest to you, so I'll tell it in my words. You've heard already from Muthulingam some of the details. You'll forgive me if I repeat them. I guess there are some details that only I know. So let me briefly try to explain to you how this happened, and I also want to say a few words about my teacher and the line of scholars that I've had the honor to belong to, and also a few words about the wonderful effort that you are making for the creation of a Tamil chair at Harvard. I'll say something about that. But first, how did it happen? You should know that I didn't even know, I'd never heard the word Tamil actually. I was, as Muthulingam says, I was a student in my BA years in Israel. I born and grew up in Iowa. I was not a very good student actually. I mean, I had, I got good marks, but my heart wasn't really in it. I was studying beautiful things. Mostly though I was writing poetry and falling in love, usually tragic love. And I was studying Arabic and Islamic studies, and as Muthulingam said, I studied the Persian language. So the one thing I cared about in those years was Persian. I was kind of drunk on the language of Persian poetry and the great poets, Saadi, Hafez, Rumi. And I went to Iran. In those days it was very easy to go to Iran from Israel. Maybe someday again it will be easy. I hope to take my wife to Isfahan someday. She should see it. I loved that Persian, and it was something that touched me somehow. So at one moment my teacher, my Persian teacher, his name is Yochanan Friedman, he's a great scholar. He came to me and he said, here in Israel, we have a great focus on Islamic studies, maybe the richest such department in the world. We have Chinese and Japanese studies, but nobody knows anything at all about India. He said, maybe you would like to study, do a PhD, maybe the university will send you with a stipend, maybe there will be a job waiting for you when you come back. All of this seemed to me a very exotic idea. To tell you the truth, I never even had thought for a single moment about studying for a higher degree. I had other plans. Two things happened at that moment. So I said no. As Muttulingam said, I didn't really know where India was. I knew it was east of Iran somewhere. That was really all I know. Although, I do want to say that as a young boy, I used to read books about Indian religion, and I had some notion like that was of interest, and maybe that was important later. Two things happened. One was this friend I had whom Muttulingam mentioned. His name is Dani Sperber. He's a very famous man in Israel. He's a great scholar, an economic historian of the Second Temple period Palestine, and he, the amazing thing about him, he's English, and in the tradition of many English eccentrics, as a young boy, a young student in Jerusalem, he had walked to India by foot. 3 times he walked from Istanbul to Bengal. Those days it was easy to walk like that. You could go Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. It was peaceful. There was no problem. It was a long walk, but he did it 3 times. And he loved it, and he learned all the languages on the way, and he especially loved India. So he was a friend of mine. I told him the university is saying to me I should maybe study something about India. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't really know. He thought I was making a great mistake. And so just as Muttulingam said, every night he would bring another book and leave it on the doorstep of my house. I would come home at 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and there would be another book about India that Dani Sperber had left. So I like books. I love books. So I started reading these books. Then I became very interested, and I thought, well, maybe it's possible. And at that same moment I met my wife. I wish she was here tonight, and I wish I could introduce her to you. She's been with me at every step of the way in India. She can sing Carnatic music very beautifully. I can tell you how that happened. Anyway, that was when I met her, and she sort of liked this idea that we would study and maybe we would go and live in India and find something there. And so these two things together changed my mind. And I said yes. But then there was a big question as to what I was going to study about India, because as far as the university was concerned, it made no difference. Anything was okay. So they said to me, if you're interested in India, you must go to talk to this man. His name was Chaim Rabin. He was a linguist, a great linguist. He was a very little man, and with his glasses on like that, and he knew 20 or 30 languages. He was a specialist in Semitic languages, so Hebrew and Arabic and Ethiopic and so on. But he had learned a bit of Tamil because of those Tamil words in the Hebrew Bible. So you just heard about them. I'll just say there are maybe 6 or 7 or 8 words like that. Would you like an example? Yeah, okay. So for example, there's the word modern Hebrew, there's the word tuki. Tuki is a parrot in modern Hebrew, a parrot. But originally it's mentioned in the Bible in the book of Kings. There's a verse with 3 words. These are items that were brought from some mysterious place called Ophir, perhaps somewhere on the way to India. They were brought to Israel. And all 3 of the words are Indian words. So first there's this tuki. They were brought apparently by sailors. Tuki in old biblical Hebrew, that is Sanskrit tohai. feathers of the peacock, and the bird must have been the peacock. You can imagine maybe some old Israelite sailor coming to some place maybe on the coast in Tamil Nadu somewhere, and pointing at the bird and saying, "What is that?" And these old Tamil people must have said, "Tohai," that is Tohai, so it became Tuki. And the other two words, there's this word kapi, which is a monkey in Sanskrit. We have also in Tamil kapi. That's a word that comes from the Munda languages. And then there's the third word, shen habim. That's shen in Hebrew is a tooth or a tusk. And hav is Sanskrit, ibha, an elephant, so an elephant's tusks. So three Indian words. One of them certainly Tamil or Dravidian. And like that, we have the word armon, which means a palace, and that is maybe Tamil aranmanai. And many people will know that the word for rice all over the world is Tamil arisi. All over the world, everyone. Yes, it's also in Hebrew, also in Greek. And there's a special plant which you will know in Tamil, ahil. Ahil, this beautiful aromatic plant, the bark is burnt, ahil which grows in Kerala. So that went into the Hebrew Bible, and several times the Bible speaks of ahalim. That's like ahil, ahalim, or ahalot, So there were these words, and this man, Chaim Rabin, he was interested, and he discovered a few more of these words. He had just come back from Madras. He went to the second International Tamil Conference in Madras. It was in 1968, right after the DMK had come to power. And he gave a speech in which he said that Tamil should be made the language of instruction in the University of Madras. And until that happens, he said Tamil will not be a fully living language. And he gave the example of Hebrew, because Hebrew, you may not know, Hebrew is a language that was revived. It was kind of like a Sanskrit or something like that. It was a language people wrote in and taught and studied and prayed in, but nobody spoke it. And then a great man called Eliezer ben Yehuda revived this language, insisted that people speak Hebrew. Part of the drama was that the schools at an early point at the beginning of the 20th century began to teach in Hebrew. That was a great miracle. Nobody knew it was even possible to do that, So he said they should make Tamil the language of instruction. Whatever, bad idea. In 1968, in Chennai, he was a kind of hero, and they paraded him, hurrah, in the streets on an elephant, and he loved Tamil. He was very, very taken. So he said to me, of course, he said, you have to study Tamil. He said it has a very ancient poetry, even just like ancient Arabic poetry, but more beautiful, and nobody in the Western world knows anything about it. That's what he said. So I didn't know what Tamil was. I went to the library, and there was one book in the National Library in Israel, and this was 1970 or 71. That was the translations from Sangam poetry by A.K. Ramanujan, The Interior Landscape. It's a little book with only maybe 40 or 50 poems, beautifully translated. That was enough. That was enough. So then there was a question where one can study Tamil. And in those days, it wasn't easy to find some place in the world. Of course, one could study in India, but in the end, we went to the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. We were there for 4 years, and I studied with my guru, John Ralston Marr. So I just want to add one or two words about John Marr. He's an old man, still very much alive. He's a wonderful Tamil scholar. He was the student of a student of Uwe Saminath Iyer. And that means that even I'm the weak link in this chain, but even I'm in the wonderful Guru Parampara from Kidisirapu Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai through Uwe Saminath Iyer, and then his student George Thompson, John Marr, and then it was my great good luck, good fortune to be in that. You know, the most important things in life, they happen by what feels like an accident. It's probably not an accident. I should tell you that before we went to study in London, we wanted to see what it was like, you know, my wife and I. So we just got married, it was like a honeymoon. We went to India, backpacks, we saw the Taj Mahal, we went here and there, you know, but when we came to Madras, I call it Madras because in 1972 it was still Madras, even now for me it's still Madras actually. I want to tell you, it was love at first sight. It was totally love at first sight. Everything about it was hot. It was July. In the summer it was really hot. We liked everything, also the heat and the food and the music and this strange sounding language which at first hardly sounded to us like a language, sounded like something else, you know. And we loved the people and the warmth of these Tamil people. It was an immediate sense of a very strong emotional tie. And then a surprising thing happened when I began to study, because remember I said to you, I was studying at the university before, but I didn't have any real inner connection to what I was doing, except for the Persian, which made a difference to me. But I discovered as a student of John Marr that I loved this world of Tamil, and that it meant something to my life. It was not just something I was studying as, you know, a kind of technical thing. It was something one might learn. There were many scholars like that, also at the School of Oriental and African Studies. But John Marr himself, he loved everything about Tamil, and he felt that was the most natural thing, was to teach and to study and to write about what you loved. And I understood, and for me too, it was a revelation. I have been blessed by that great good luck. Afterwards, we lived in Madras, in Mandaveli Pakam for some time. That is how my wife came to study music. And, you know, I could go on telling you all these anecdotes, but I don't want to take up your time. I do want to say that the effort to create a chair for Tamil at Harvard University, that is a marvelous thing. I want to thank everyone who was connected with that. I met yesterday in Cambridge, Mr. Janakiraman and Sambandan, and I have tremendous respect and admiration for this idea. I think you're living here, so you know what it means. A Tamil chair at Harvard, it's not only the question of the prestige of the university and so on, that's all true, but more than that, this means that Tamil will have a place among the great languages and cultures of the world, in the academic world, throughout the world. And Harvard is the right place for this. And I just want to congratulate everyone who has had any part in this, and wish you luck in completing this, because it's a very beautiful and magnificent effort. I want to thank you again for this great honor that